Nursing Dose with your host, Dr. Farah Laurent. This morning, I want to come and talk about a couple of interview tips. But before I get into that, I think I'm going to try to do probably a couple of morning series. And you guys let me know in the comments. Kind of like morning talks with Farah, chatting with Dr. Farah. I'll see, what I'm going to do. But I wanted to come on just to give you some updates about my new graduate nurses and nursing students. So, as you know, it's graduation season for anybody in the nursing community. And if you happen to be watching and you're a nursing student or new grad, congrats on making it this far. You're almost done. You know what? I forgot to hit up my TikTok. So let the people on TikTok in as well. So for those who know me, I like to go live weekly on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and of course, LinkedIn. So here are the updates. I am doing a lot of consults and spending a lot of energy on supporting new graduate nurses and nursing students. So for those who don't know me, I'm a nurse career coach. I've been a nurse for over 20 years, started my career in emergency medicine. And I was told by a clinical instructor that I would never be an emergency nurse and that I should stick to med-surg. I hated med-surg, wanted nothing to do with it. And back then, that was 20 years ago, I was like, watch me. I will be an ER nurse. And this was in Canada when at that time, they weren't really hiring new graduate nurses in the emergency department. And we didn't have a nurse residency program. But because I was so committed and had the conviction and I knew I belonged in the ER, no one could tell me any different. And I did. I got hired as a nursing student in the ER before I even passed my boards. And I love to tell that story to give other nursing students and new graduate nurses hope and to see the possibilities that exist and not to listen to negativity. So that's why I promised myself that I would later go back to school, become an educator, a cool educator, right? And then later on, I became a clinical instructor, educator, clinical educator, and then director of education, associate dean, the list goes on. But at the core, I always went back to nursing students and new grads. I love supporting them. They were always in my office, or I was always with them in the lab, in the simulation center, because I just love hanging around them and helping them with interview tips, job search tips, because they just hold a special place in my heart. So I wanted to come and talk to you about a couple wins that have happened this week. So one particular nursing student that I've known for a couple of years, I'm not going to say her name until, later when she comes out with her official video testimonial and her official written testimonial. But she reached out to me and she was like, hey, I want to apply to this nurse residency program in New York City. And for a critical care position, right? And at first she was hesitant. She's like, ooh, I don't know if I can afford your services, but I know that you're the best. Like, I've always been watching your content, and I know that you can help me. So we worked it out. We started working together. And literally that was about 2 weeks ago, okay? She was hesitant to take the first interview, but I walked her through it. I was like, you better take that first interview and not delay it. She took the first interview and moved on to the second round. And she had her second interview this week. And after working with me, guess what? She slayed her interview. She literally got a same-day offer, okay? Yeah, she didn't get the written offer yet, but she got a same-day offer for her dream position, okay, at one of the number one hospital systems in New York City. So that's big win number one. And I can't wait to share her testimonial and her video once, everything is ready to go. And then the second win, I got on a consultation call yesterday with with a new grad from Florida. She told me that she was applying for a while. She couldn't find, anything. She kept getting rejections. And she actually reached out because she was going to work with me. But in the meantime, she was watching my content, all my videos on TikTok. And I don't know if she got to see my YouTube videos, but for anyone that's watching, definitely check out my YouTube channel called The Nursing Dose with Fair, which is this podcast. But instead of just looking at the live streams, go to video and you'll see all the videos that I have specifically for new graduate nurses. So, anyway, she was watching my TikTok videos and we got on the call and she's like, oh my goodness. She's like, I wanted to reach out to work with you, but she's like, just from watching your videos, she said they called me recently for an interview and they asked me to come in. And she said, in the interviews, I used to struggle with the tell me about yourself question. But she said, I watched some of your content about interviews. And she's like, I took your framework that you talked about, I applied it. And she's like, and then I got the offer. So she literally was like, I just want to thank you so much for the content that you for new nurse. Blew me away. Again, this is probably in the couple last few weeks, probably the fourth or fifth nurse that reaches out to me to tell me that just from watching my content, I'm like, maybe my content is too good, right? But my content is so good that they don't even work with me and they're getting offers. So I'm like, imagine the people that are in my coaching program, right? The transformation and results that they get. So I'm super excited. I just wanted to share that. And actually, she did drop a testimonial on LinkedIn. So if you want to go check that out, look under my recommendation section and you'll see her testimonial. So this brings me to my interview tips for new graduate nurses. So I dropped a video on TikTok yesterday about this, but I want to address behavioral style stories and just storytelling in general. To me, that is one of the most powerful things that you can master before you get to your interview. The biggest mistake that I see new graduate nurses making and student nurses when they get to their interview is that they're trying to impress the interviewer by sounding super smart and using these big textbook words. Okay? Let me give you an example. Typically, when they say, hey, tell me about yourself, what they'll do is they'll say, hi, my name is Farah. I went to school here. And then they start trying to recite their resume. You don't need to do that. They have your resume, right? And you don't have to start off by saying, hi, my name is. They know who you are. They already reached out to you, right? Don't sound boring in the beginning. The beginning is for you to tell them something about yourself that is going to grab their attention, keep them engaged, and to help them see that you're the ideal candidate in a way that hits so hard that you're unforgettable when you say your about me pitch, your interview pitch. Okay. And what is unforgettable? Stories are unforgettable. And the way that you tell the story is very important, which is the tonality, the delivery, your facial expressions, all of the things matter when you're in those first few minutes of the interview. So, back to my point, don't say things like, oh, I want to help people. That's why I went into nursing. And I want to deliver or provide evidence-based practice. What does that even mean? Right? Let's stop with the big words that don't really mean anything. Okay. Same thing when they're asking you, like, hey, can you tell me some of your strengths? Nobody wants a long laundry list, like where you're just spitting it out and you sound so scripted and automated and monotone, right? Like, yes, I'm a hard worker. Um, I pay attention to detail. I have great assessment skills. Like, everybody says those things. How about you demonstrate all of those traits, skills, strengths, clinical strengths as well through a story, a powerful story. Okay. And this is what I help my clients with the storytelling methodology, is what I call. I infuse it in their interviews and I also infuse it in their cover letter. And that's what helps them stand out, particularly in the first few minutes of the interview when they say, "Tell me about yourself." Okay. So the other tip I have for you too is tell a story. Tell your why story. Why did you get into nursing? And why do you want to be a critical care nurse, a labor and delivery nurse, an emergency nurse, a pediatric nurse, a psych mental health nurse? There has to be some story behind it. Okay. But give it some depth. Don't be afraid to crack a joke if you have to, or connect, with the interviewer. Okay, so those are a couple tips. So most new nurses will struggle with the "tell me about yourself" question because they have not prepared. And this is probably one of the things that we spend the most time on in the coaching program, is to nail the "tell me about yourself" question, which is essentially the interview pitch. Okay, so let me know if you guys have any comments or questions. Drop them in the chat. Let me know if this was valuable. And I'm going to break down the behavioral style questions that I did in my TikTok video. And if you haven't seen it, go back and watch that video. Okay. And basically, what I said in that video, in the TikTok video, it's titled like "Don't Tell Whack Stories." Okay. Don't tell whack stories, meaning they definitely have to be unforgettable and the delivery has to be amazing. And they have to have some depth to it. Okay. So, number one, you want to tell an above and beyond story. And an above and beyond story is not what you do in your typical workday. Some new nurses or students get confused with this because they think the above and beyond story is like something they did. Like, for example, I was practicing with one nurse and she's like, "Well, there was this one time a patient was refusing to take their medication. They were frustrated. They just didn't want it. So, we spent time educating the patient and finally, told them all the positives. And then they went ahead and took their meds." That actually is not an above and beyond story. That's part of the job. That's part of you being a nurse. That's part of education, which is part of your role as a registered nurse, right? But an above and beyond story, this is something that I actually told on TikTok yesterday. I'll give you a quick example. There was a elderly woman that had come to the hospital, the health system, because this was in New York, because she wanted to visit her husband. And I think he had some type of heart condition that happened. So she was rushing to go see him. But just outside the ER, she actually tripped and hurt her ankle. So she actually had to come into the ER. So, of course, I was her primary nurse. We did all the things. She didn't have a broken ankle, but her ankle, she had a sprained ankle. So she couldn't walk straight, right? Like, she was limping. But the whole time she was thinking about her husband, she wanted to get to him really quickly. But now she's limping. So what I did was I was in the fast track area where it's lower acuity. It's almost like an urgent clinic, urgent care style. So I said, okay, I told my team, hey, I'm going to take her over to the next building, down the street. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Just watch my patients. I didn't really have many patients. So what I did is I just said, hey, I'll take you to your husband, put her in her wheelchair. We went outside, took her to the other building, went all the way up the elevator, went to the unit where her husband was, and actually brought her straight to the room. So she didn't have to limp her way over all the way to that next building. Now, is that like a huge above and beyond story? Not huge, but it is outside of my regular duty, right? I didn't have to leave the ER, go outside, and take her to another building to go see her husband, right? So if you tell something like that, then they'll be like, oh, okay, wow, like that's something that you're going above and beyond, and that you really care for your patients, right? Another story that you have to get ready is a conflict story or a time where a patient or family member was upset. What they're trying to look for here is your customer service skills or your patient experience skills. Okay. This is huge in healthcare because essentially it's a business, but they want to see how you do service recovery and how you handle conflict and smooth things over. Right. So if you haven't heard of the acronym AIDIT, I would say go look it up. But it helps with somebody put a crazy comment in TikTok and I can't focus. Anyways, it helps with the storytelling, right? So that's the conflict story or the patient experience story. And a lot of times it has to do with like patients are waiting or they're not being told what's happening. So communication is a big one, reducing their anxiety. Or maybe they want something that's like not on the menu. And like you kind of go out of your way to maybe talk to dietary to get it or something like that, whatever it is. Okay. Another one is an advocacy story, or if you've seen a change in condition and how did you escalate the situation? How did you handle it? Or an emergency situation. What role did you play in that emergency? How were you part of the team? And how did you, again, escalate the situation, bring on the attending or whoever, okay? Because they want to see how you handle emergencies, how you prioritize care, how you delegate, your thought process, and can you stay calm during emergencies? Especially for new nurses, this is what they want to know. Often they'll also give you a scenario like, hey, you have 4 patients, they all need something. Which one will you see first? Okay, because they want to see your thought process. So anyways, if you want to learn more tips, strategies, frameworks on interview skills, join me in my free webinar this Thursday coming up next week at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. PST. Go to newnursjob.com. And even if you can't make it or whatever, just sign up, put your name, put your phone number, and you'll get notified when the next webinar happens. Okay. So that's it for me. I'll try to go live later today if I can, but I hope that was helpful. Again, my name is Dr. Farah Laurent. I've helped over 200 new graduate nurses land their dream role in specialty areas like the ICU, the ED, labor and delivery, NICU, psych, you name it, making over 100K and getting their job in less than 90 days. Just like I shared the story with this most recent nurse who literally reached out to me 2 weeks ago, and she got a critical care position as a nursing student in New York City. So if you want to work with me, DM me Dream Role, go sign up for my webinar, newnursjob.com. All right. I'll talk to y'all soon. Take care. Bye. Hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions.